Okay, so welcome to Parsha Shiur. If you're listening online, please email me at j.golker@gmail.com and I'll send you the handout. The handout you've got saying Vayeishev at the top, you'll see is only one side. And that is because it's going to be a short Parsha Shiur so that we have time for some Chanukah ideas as well. So let's just go through two interesting ha'aras on the Parsha. The first pasuk says, Vayeishev Yaakov be'eretz Megurei Aviv be'eretz Canaan. So after a very sort of tumultuous period in Yaakov's life, he escapes from Esav, he goes to Lavan, and he works there. All the episode, of being in the house of Lavan with Rachel, with Leah, etc. He builds a family. He re-encounters Esav, and finally he wants to have some peace. Vayeishev Yaakov, says Rashi, Bikesh Yaakov leishev b'shalva. Yaakov even wanted to have some serenity, and it says Rashi, Kafat olav roig shel Yosef. As soon as this happened, this desire to have some serenity is expressed, the whole incident of Yosef kicks in. Says Rashi, Tzadikim mevakshim leishev b'shalva. The tzadikim want to have some peace. Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu ledayin tzadikim Hashem mesukun lohem le'olam haba. Is it not enough what is set in place for them for the world to come? They've got to have peace in this world as well. Now, says Rabbi Feinstein, I don't really understand this. Vayeishev Yaakov, he quotes the Rashi, Nira Tevadai wrote Hashem Yisparach b'shalva tzadikim. Why not? Why can't tzadikim have serenity in this world? Shahana lohem, v'hana la'olam. If they have serenity, it's good for them and it's good for the world. Let them do what they need to do to learn, to live a life of tzidkas. Sani letzadikim de'achli trei alma, says the Gemara in Horius, says Ramesha, that is it so bad for tzadikim that they can enjoy two worlds, this world and the world to come? Aval, says Ramesha, a very interesting thing. Hakavona, the intention is this, le'inyan hachinuch. It's as a reference to chinuch. V'halimud lehabonim, sheyakov choshav, she'ena tzorich shuv lidoig avur chinuch bonov. He thought, my children have now a little bit older. Shein kulam b'chirei Hashem. They're all outstanding people, chosen ones of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore I can take my foot off the gas, as it were, in terms of overseeing their chinuch. They're b'chirei Hashem v'tzadikei olam sheHaKadosh Baruch Hu mishtabech bohem v'koftzal of roiga shel Yosef. And then all of a sudden, this whole incident of Yosef happens. Shemizeh chazinan shel olam af b'bonim haYosef gedolim ba'olam. That to teach us, as Ramesha, that even children who are gedolim ba'olam, who are giants, who are outstanding, over Yosef tzadikim and their brilliant tzadikim, tzorich ha'av shelo la'asiach daito mehem. Parents should not ever stop davening for their children and for their continued success, for lohichicham, and being involved in rebuking them and guiding them, for lohirosom eich lehisnaig, how to conduct themselves. So therefore, it says Ramesha that when it says Vayeishev Yaakov, as Rashi says, Bikesh Yaakov leishev b'shalva, it wasn't that he wanted to sit by a pool and swing from a hammock. What he wanted is just to take a back seat now. He thought his days of active chinuch was over. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no, that even children who are slightly older, who are developing into outstanding tzaddikim, you can't take your foot off the gas. There's a famous Maisa with a stipler that someone once came to him for advice about davening or children, and he said, just daven. Davening is tefillah for children is critical. And he then just sort of, as an aside, he said, you should know how many tears I've shed for my Chaim. That's what the stipler said. Now, at the time, the stipler was an old man, and his son, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, was, I think, 53 years old. And he's still shedding tears for Reb Chaim, who was by then had made Siyam Hashas who knows how many dozens of times. So not to take your foot off the gas. That's Rav Moshe's interpretation of this Rashi. Okay, let's move on with something quite fascinating. Later in the Parsha, you have the famous story of the butler and the baker. Yosef goes to Mitzrayim. He's sold down to Egypt. The whole story in the house of Beis Potiphar, and he is thrown into jail. Now, when he's in jail, he encounters the butler and the baker. He interprets their dream. Now, there is a very interesting Yerushalmi, which we have mentioned a couple of years ago. The Yerushalmi says, why do we have 4 cups of wine on Seder night? So the first reason given by the Yerushalmi is the most well-known one. It's this middle box, the first box in paragraph 2. Rabbi Benoya keneged abar gu'ulos. There are 4 expressions of geula, v'yitzesi v'tzalti v'galti v'lokachti, and each case represents one of those geulas. That's the famous reason given. There is a second reason given which is less known. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Omar keneged arba kaises shel paroi, because in the Parsha, in this week's Parsha, it says the word kais 4 times. V'kais para b'yodi v'eschat hoisam al kais para v'etin el kais yad para v'nosato kais para b'yodi. It says kais 4 times, and therefore, corresponding to the 4 times it says kais, we have 4 cups of wine on Seder night. And the question, of course, is what on earth is the connection? The Parsha of Vayeishev with the butler and the baker, it says kais 4 times. What has that got to do with Seder night 4 cups of wine? So 2 years ago, I told you the pshat of the Aruch HaShulchan. It's a fabulous pshat, but that's for another time, or maybe we'll do Chazorah 1 year. But if you look 2 years ago online, you'll see the answer there. It's an amazing idea. The Kli Yakar gives an alternative answer. And sadly, it's actually quite connected to the first year we had this evening about negotiating with terrorists. You'll see why. V'yesh litmoya. He quotes the Yerushalmi, it's a Medrash Rabbi as well. V'yesh litmoya, says the Kli Yakar in the second line, Ma hera kodesh baruch hu l'sar hamashkim bezeh, u'ma inyan arba kaises shel pesach lechalome shel sar hamashkim. What is the connection? V'nir lefarsh, says the Kli Yakar, ki yodua, ki shtias hakais meire al hatshua mi'ezet tzara. When a person is redeemed from some difficult situation, drinking a glass of wine is an expression of salvation. I will lift my cup of salvation. And the 4 cups of wine on Seder night will show you that. And anyone who has been captured, anyone who's captured, who's a hostage as it were, he encounters the 4 difficulties that the Novi, Yirmiyah HaNovi, expresses in Perek Tesvav in Yirmiyahu. Koyam Hashem, asher lecherev lecherev, those who have the sword, v'asher lemoves lemoves, and death, ra'av, hunger, v'asher leshvi leshvi. And the Gemara says in Baba Basra Daf Ches Amud Beis, Omer b'Yechanan, kol ha'mu'ucha ba'posuk kashem m'shelefonov. The later it appears, the four difficulties that a person encounters in a captivity, cherev, moves, ra'av, and shvi, they're sort of progressively worse. Ad shvi kulo isnube, because shvi, captivity, sadly, has all 4 aspects. You're held prisoner, there's danger of death, there's hunger, and there's injury of cherev. Ki biyodah shel Adonai liyasher b'cherev, he can afflict him with a sword. V'la'misa, he could kill him. V'la'riva, and he could starve him. V'la'noisa b'inyan beis hasoyam, just keeping him captive. V'nimsa, therefore, shekol shavu b'beis habar, anyone who is kept in a prison, k'sheyoyitz mibeis ha'asurim, dinhu sheyishte arba kaises. He's actually encountered 4 aspects of danger, of captivity. And therefore, corresponding to being saved from those 4 aspects, he needs to drink 4 cups of Yeshua. Since all 4 are there, he's been saved from 4 categories of danger. That's why it says the word kais 4 times when the Sar HaMashkim, the butler, made it out. The baker was killed, of course, but the butler made it out. Why does it say kais 4 times? Because he was incarcerated in prison in Egypt and therefore was exposed to 4 dangers, cherev, moves, ra'av, and shvi, and therefore when he comes out, he needs to drink 4 kaises of wine. Because he dreamt that he will be redeemed from these 4 dangers. That's why it says 4 kaises. Continues the Kli Yakar. If that's the case, Lomdu Chazal therefore learnt Mikan Pesach Chayev Kol Adam Lishtos Arba Kaises. For on Pesach we need to drink 4 cups of wine. Ki Yisrael Hayu Gamkein Shavuyim b'Mitzrayim. We were captives in Egypt. And therefore we were exposed to the four dangers of Rav, of Shvi, of Cherev, and of Moves. Al-Kain, Dinhu, Sheyishtu, Arba Kosa, Shalishua. Therefore we too need to drink 4 cups of wine, Keneged Hatzolam Erbosim, from being saved from all 4 aspects of captivity. Ki lo esavasenu bilvad goal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't just save our ancestors, Ki afo yisonu goal imohem, etc., etc. V'zeh Pirush Yaakov. Says the Kli Yaakov, this is a very precious interpretation. Umikan shofat Yosef besichlei shesar hamashkim yotzim beis asurim hasoya v'yoshav al kanoi. That's how the Sar Yosef understood that the Sar Hamashkim is going to be redeemed. Avol Sar Ha'ofim lo yirah bo dova hamera agulos v'alpatus nafshe. But with the Sar Ha'ofim, the baker didn't see anything. When he heard in the Sar Hamashkim's dream the word kais said 4 times, I understood that you're in captivity, you're going to be redeemed from the 4 dangers, you're going to be drinking 4 cups of wine to express Yeshua of each of those 4 dangers. I understood you're going to be freed. And therefore, corresponding to those redemption from those 4 stages, those 4 dangers, we also drink 4 cups of wine on Seder night. Okay, so a very interesting explanation of the Kli Yaakov, why we drink 4 cups of wine on Seder night and why dafka 4 expressions of kais in the story of the Sar Hamashkim. Okay.